So our final session today, we're going to take a few minutes to do what we're calling a spotlight session on what I've long thought is one of the most promising concepts to improve digital ID in the U.S., which is the mobile driver's license, also known as MDLs. And as we pointed out in our policy blueprint a couple of years ago, state DMVs are arguably the best positioned government entity to lead transformation of identity from the physical to the digital, in that the DMV is the one place where most adult Americans go through a fairly robust in-person identity proofing process. Although, as I think Pastor Ben pointed out, not always successfully, but it is something that works for a lot of people, and it's something to build on. And as you're going to hear today in this next session, states are starting to move beyond just issuing plastic cards here and starting to move into digital counterparts. So in this next section, Eric Jorgensen, who's the director of the Department of Transportation in the state of Arizona, is going to detail what they've been doing with mobile driver's licenses, along with Matt Thompson, who leads the civil identity business at IDEMIA, who's been the company who has been helping supply their solution. Given some schedule challenges they had, they pre-recorded this session, so we're not going to have a chance to do active Q&A, but I think it's a great session to lay out just what a digital government ID might look like in the future, and also talk about how to architect it from a security and a privacy perspective. So let me hand it off to them, and then we'll wrap things up after that session for the day. Thank you.
As the provider of the most common means of identification in the United States, the DMV community recognizes the importance and power of secure identity for authentication and authorization. For decades, our in-person verification of citizens, their documents, and ultimately their identity by binding personal information from verified source documents to a biometric key, in our case, a photograph, has been the gold standard for in-person authentication. But the world is changing rapidly, and the old standards, even the gold ones, are simply inadequate to move forward in an increasingly digital world. Now, as we sit in a session called Mobile Driver Licenses, it might surprise you to hear that I hate the term Mobile Driver License, or MDL. The reason is that MDL simply does not express the scope and depth and power of the solution we are pursuing. Talking about MDL, or mobile driver's license, tends to lead us to think about the same ways we use a driver license today, but having it on a phone instead of a physical card. Our opportunity, however, is so much more, and that's why I'm grateful that our partners at IDEMIA rebranded their mobile driver license to MID. With a biometrically authenticated identity bound to a verified device and digitally transmitted through a standards-based protocol, we now have the ability to create a trusted relationship between remote parties that was not previously imaginable. And this is not just theoretical. Arizona has already implemented this model to increase online services available to our own DMV customers, launching first-of-their-kind online services like instructional permit testing from home, and secure title transfers between customers without coming into the office, all guarded by remote biometric authentication, linking back to the identity information and photograph we already have. But we're not satisfied with serving only our DMV customers. That's why Arizona and IDEMIA work together to create a super portal for state and local entities to leverage our unique citizen authentication capabilities for other public services. Now, moving to an MDL, this type of remote authentication becomes possible for reliant parties everywhere by putting in their hands the tools to consume and validate an Arizona mobile identity. While that in and of itself is exciting, we add to that a new level of privacy by putting citizens back in control of what information gets shared. Gone are the days of handing over your license with your name, birth date, address, and other personal information when all you really needed to prove was that you were older than 21. In fact, this is just the beginning of where privacy can go. In future models, imagine government serving as a validator of the information we have without needing to share it. Imagine a citizen wanting a second mortgage and saying, hey, state, you know that I am who I say I am. And you know that I own the property in question. And you know that I pay taxes on an income higher than the lender's requirements. Will you please verify all that for the lender? And the state simply says, yes, that's true. And they do that either by having the information already securely signed on a device or passing it through an online service guarded by this type of authentication. And now, before someone says, hold on there, big brother, the model we use in Arizona keeps all that data federated in the distinct public agencies that own the data. The key, quite literally, is the identity that allows each agency to link its information to the citizen without sharing it anywhere, including between other agencies. One final thought on privacy before I show you how all this works. This is what I call privacy through irrelevance. When all that personal information is no longer useful to the criminals who try to impersonate you because authentication is not knowledge-based, we begin to see a return to privacy by the very fact that the information they want to steal now is irrelevant. Okay, let's take a look at how this really works. As I said, Arizona already uses biometric authentication to guard services on our web portal. In fact, we use multiple options for authentication. But the most secure option at the moment is a mobile ID created by IDEMIA. In March, we will upgrade that mobile ID to include the mobile driver license and allow relying parties to use verification services to consume that ID. So let's see how that works, first for the citizen and then for the reliant parties. First thing, a citizen downloads and installs the app, getting a quick intro and performing the usual housekeeping items like accepting the terms of use. The citizen then begins the process of connecting the identity to the device by providing a phone number, receiving a text, and then clicking the link they receive. Once the device is validated and connected, the citizen takes a picture of the front and back of their physical driver license to verify security features located in the front and collect information from the barcode on the back. Then comes a selfie with a liveliness check to make sure that you really are there. And then all that is bundled and sent to the DMV to validate against our records. Assuming everything matches, the MID is created and bound to the device. Access is guarded by multiple means, including by creating a 6-digit PIN, and device-specific biometrics like Touch ID or Face ID can be enabled if desired by the customer. Now that the citizen has the mobile ID installed, let's take a look at how this works for the verifier. There are 5 verification methods. The first one is the same one we use today. Simple visual verification of the information presented just like on a regular driver's license, with a couple of additional features to make sure it's not a picture, like the moving head and the movable sill, showing that this is a live representation. The second is by scanning a barcode created on the ID that is the same as the barcode on the driver's license today, with one important exception, that the customer can decide which elements are actually included in the barcode when it's scanned. Now, both of these methods work at least as well as what we have today because they use today's technology. Third is the use of a verifying application, also available for free in the App Store. In this case, the verifier chooses what information they want to request, either as a preset option or changing it on the spot. Then the customer presents their mobile ID, and the verifier scans a QR code from that mobile ID. This initiates the request to the citizen, and assuming the citizen agrees to share the requested elements, the information is encrypted and transmitted via Bluetooth. Fourth is a software development kit available to verifiers to integrate these solutions into their existing systems, like point of sale systems. The SDK even includes the ability to connect a barcode scanner if the existing system doesn't have that capability. Finally, there is online verification, which is actually what we use in our portal. The online verifier generates a QR code, which is scanned by the citizen. This initiates the request, beginning with authentication of the citizen, and then the citizen either consenting or declining to share the requested information. Now, I want to be clear, this is not the end state. In fact, these options are just the first small steps in an exciting transformation in identity. Of these 5 validation methods, I'd love to see the first 2 disappear quickly, but they're necessary in a mixed physical and digital space. Additionally, as technology continues to grow, we look forward to an increasingly seamless experience for both our citizens and for those who rely on identity verification. And that's why we collaborate with partners like IDEMIA and other innovators to create the infrastructure to make this vision possible.
And it's through that partnership that IDEMIA has had with Arizona and other jurisdictions where we've really been working together as jurisdictions and industry partners, IDEMIA and others, who have really been working to create mobile ID and mobile driver's license to maximize the value and impact that this new type of identity credential that states are issuing can have for not just their own jurisdictions, but governments, businesses outside of their jurisdictions as well. And IDEMIA has been producing driver's license for more than 60 years. In fact, our organization produced the very first photo driver's license. And for decades, the changes that have been made with identity credentials in America have been very incremental. But now more than ever, the industry and jurisdictional leaders like Eric Jorgensen here have been working to create a step change improvement in identity and the identity credentials that are issued by states. And really, we have 2 concurrent kind of paradigm shifts that are happening simultaneously within motor vehicle agencies and the role that they play, shifting from being purely around driver services and vehicle services to more of identity management and citizen services, enabling that within their states, and also a paradigm shift in terms of the way people think about and use their identities. So increasingly, as Eric was talking about, we have a need to prove who we are online, but also in a physical context, fraudsters have caught up and in many cases leapfrogged a lot of the security technologies we put on physical credentials today. And we have to move away from physical verification methods of identity and get to more robust, higher trust ways of verifying that someone is who they claim to be. And really, that's at the core of mobile ID. But to create the future of identity, we've had years of working on global interoperability and trust. And that's really been around an international standard that AMVA, jurisdictions and industry partners have been working on for many years, that is being finalized in the near future, that's really ensuring that mobile driver's license, mobile IDs are as useful as possible, and setting up an opportunity where they can be prevalent and widely accepted within the ecosystem by following standards and standard-based solutions for issuance and verification. Again, the things that Eric walked through. But also in the way that we provide these identity credentials, these mobile IDs, mobile driver's license to citizens or end users, we really have been thinking about how to separate the identity from the credential and the application, because those are really 3 distinct things. And the big driver is going to be that different use cases are going to lead to different user preferences in terms of how they access, manage, and use their mobile driver's license. And we want to create choice. And we want to create choice for the individual to use those things in a way that gives them the greatest confidence and sense of control. And that leads to kind of the final point I want to make about this new evolution in identity in America, which is really what we call identity on the edge. And mobile ID, mobile driver's license, was designed with our jurisdiction partners like Arizona to enhance the protection of the user's privacy and data, to not only support our compliance with these global regulations and standards, but also because we believe that users will demand and expect more transparency in the use of their data as they interact with each other, with governments, and with businesses. And we've worked to encapsulate our privacy and security commitments into the design philosophy that we call identity at the edge with mobile ID. In this context, users' data is either stored on a mobile device or in a system of record with the state issuing authority. User authentication takes place locally on the device only, and users control access to their data. No data is shared without their explicit consent. And they also get a consent receipt of that data that they have shared so that they can keep track of with whom they've shared what information about themselves. And only they have access to that information. User data is signed by the system of record to establish a clear, transparent chain of trust. That's where the issuing authority comes into play, and the certificate that's associated with signing that identity from the state provides that strong way of verifying the authenticity and that the data has come from an authoritative source. And then anti-tampering and spoofing tools strengthen the integrity of the credential for usage by others. And then lastly, again, tying back to that first point I made, interoperable. It's critical that the mobile IDs, mobile driver's license that are coming into market now are interoperable and aligned with the international standards, with ISO and with other standards in this area. So a lot of collaboration, a lot of years of effort and really strategic foresight by leaders in this industry like Eric, and the work that's being done in Arizona has led to this moment where mobile IDs, mobile driver's licenses are going to be coming into the market this year in 2021 in a big way. You know, and it's going to start having an impact on the way that individuals assert their identity and the way that organizations verify that information is being trustworthy. And we're excited about this step change improvement in identity credentials in America, and appreciate the opportunity to present that here with the Better Identity Coalition.
All right. Well, Eric, Matt, thank you for that. A nice way to end the first day of our two-day event, talking about what the future might look like, and in some cases, like in Arizona, how it's